everyone, welcome back to the course Python Fundamentals Building Blocks for Aspiring Developers. We will start with the second module in this lecture, which is data structures, and this is just the first part of the data structures. So here we have our agenda for the second module. It is divided into 4 days. First we'll go over lists, then we will see tuples, then sets, and finally we will see dictionaries. So let's begin our fifth day, that is about lists. So lists. First question, what are lists? So lists are a data structure that allow us to store and manipulate a collection of items. For example, you have 5 or 6 items. They could be a number, they could be strings, they could be floating numbers, and you want to combine them in sort of a collection so they are together. That is when we use lists, and it is one of the most commonly used data structures because it is too versatile. It allows us a lot of functionality, and it can even hold different data types in one list. So in the example you can see that list is sort of a combined boxes where each box holds a particular value, and this now forms a collection of elements or items, and that is essentially a list. In this example we have just stored the integer numbers. We can also have integer numbers or strings, both of them together in one list. So the creation of list, the strings are also kind of a list, because most of the functions and methods that we can use on lists can also be used on strings, and strings are kind of a list because these are collection of different characters. Like each character in a string is one item or one element, and when we combine them together in a collection, that forms a string. So strings are also kind of a list, and lists can also be empty. And in the example you can see how we can create a list. So we create a list by defining the items within a square bracket, and each item is separated by a comma. A list can have numbers. In the second example you can see a list can also have string values, and in the third one, if we want to have an empty list, we can just write square brackets with nothing in between, and that is an empty list. So let's move on. Now the indexing is also similar to the lists, so similar to strings. It allows us to access elements at certain position. Again, it starts from the zero index. Python is a zero index language, so all the indexing and slicing and counting starts from 0 rather than 1. So you can see in the 3 examples we can access different elements of the list. If we start counting from 0, for example, at the third index would be the value of 4, 0, 1, 2, 3. So we have counted 4 elements, so that is 4. We can also do a negative index for the list, and if we were to slice a list, that is the same exact thing as we do with a string. We can get a part of a list, sub list you can say. You can also add in a step, like if you want to skip some particular values in between. So it is kind of very similar to strings. And now let's have a look at different methods for strings. So first is the append method. So what it does is that it adds an element at the end of the list. So we have a list created, holds 3 value. We just say my list, the name of the variable, dot append, and in the brackets we have to write what we want to put at the end of the list. So it always goes at the end of the list. The output is 1, 2, 3, 4. It cannot be 1, 2, then 4, and then 3, because append method always adds the new value at the end of the list. Then we have the extend method. Now extend method is used to kind of combine 2 lists. If we have 2 lists, we say my list dot extend and then put in another list. So the output will be a combined list, but they will be in the same order. Like if we have written my list dot extend, so the first values will be from the list called my list, which are 1, 2, 3, and after that will be the values from the other list, both in the same order. Then we have another method called insert, and it is used to insert an element at a specific index. For example, you don't want to insert an element at the end of the list. You want to insert it somewhere in between. So you can use this insert method. So in the insert method, in the first one, where it is written 1, we specify the index where we want to add the new element or a new item. So that is the first index, and then after that we add in the value that we want to add, or the item that we want to add to the list. So you see how it is added in the first index. Next we have the remove method. So remove method basically removes the first occurrence of a specified value. Whatever the first occurrence is, it will remove that. If there are multiple occurrences of the same item, it will not remove all of them, just the first one. As you can see in the example, it just removes the first occurrence of the number 3. Then we have the pop method. Pop is also kind of like the remove method, but it also returns the popped element or the popped item to us. So when I say return, we first have to understand what return means. So return in programming terms means that something is being given to you, like you obtain something by doing something. For example, if I do my list dot remove 3, it will just change the list and remove 3. But if I do pop, it will remove that particular element that I'm trying to remove, let's say 1. So it will remove 1 but return it to me, and I can store it in a variable. So if I see in the example, I can do print popped element. So according to the second line, I removed the element which is the number 1, and the value of that is um, stored in the variable called popped element. So the value at the first index is 2. So the output is 2 for popped element because the value is returned. Then we have the list again. The value is removed from that list because we've already popped it, and this is the list that remains. And then we have the method called index. So this again returns the index of the first occurrence of a specified value. Whatever value we give, it will return as the first occurrence of that particular value. So these were the main methods that we use for lists, and now let's start coding and see them in action. So you wanna open up VS Code. You can create a new file. I'm working on the same file because this is for demonstration purposes. You can always create a new file and save it as .py extension. You can give it whatever name you want. So first, let's start with the creation of list. So we've seen that we can create a list like this. So this is a list. This is an empty list right now. We can put in numbers here, 5, 8. We can put in any numbers, and we can also say, let's say print my list, save it, then run the code using Control F5, and it prints the list. Now one thing we have to understand for the list is that it is an ordered collection, which means that the numbers or the elements or the items that we put in the list will be always in the same order that we put in. It won't output, like it won't say that 8 is over here. No, because it is an ordered collection. It will always follow the same order. And this is also essential on why list is so used so much in programming. We can also store different types in the strings, different data types in a list. For example, I can do this. I can store a float number. I can even store a boolean variable which is either true or false. And then if I save it, and then if I run the code, again it has no issues and it can hold it. But a good practice would be that you do not keep multiple data types, different sort of data types in one list until it is necessary, and that really depends on the use case. Sometimes we can store different data types in a list, but most of the times it is preferred not to do this. So let's keep it like this. Yeah, let's keep it like this. And if we look at the strings, if we were to compare it with the string, my string is equals to, let's say, Chondo. So you see, this is also kind of a list. This is the first element, J. O is the second element, or item. H is the third item, and then so on. It is kind of like a list. Each of these characters separately can be one item within a list. So this is also important to understand. Now let's remove this, and this is how a list look like. Now we can go ahead and see how indexing works in lists. So in the previous lectures we saw how indexing worked with strings. It is the same case for lists. We use square brackets, name of the variable, that is my list, and in the square brackets we put in the index. So let's say we want to print the value 4. So what that index would be, again do not forget that it is a 0 index. We count from 0, so that would be 0, 1, 2, 3. So that should be at the third index. We print and do this, so we get a value of 4. Now it is not a list. This value is of type whatever this is. This is an integer, so this value is of type integer. It is not a list. If I print this my list altogether without indexing, the output here is of type list. You see, we can also do negative indices, -3, and run the code. So it goes negative, -1, -2, -3. Works the same exact way with this with the strings and with the lists as well. We can also do slicing in the lists. So let's make it big, larger, 4, 8, 2, 1, 10. So this is the list, and let's do some slicing. So for slicing, what did we do? The starting position and the ending position. And we do it, save it, run the code. So the starting position is the first index, which is this one, and up till the sixth index, which means up till values for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 indexes, 5 values, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It will not print this one, only these 5 values in between. So this is slicing. We can also add a step, and let's just keep it like this and see. So if I keep it like this, I do not enter a value, it automatically assumes that you want to go up till the end of the list. So it says, okay, start from the first index, print 2, then take a step of 3, 1, 2, 3, print 5, then take a step of 3, 1, 2, 3, print 8, 1, 2, 3, and 10. So that is how slicing works. You can also stop it at somewhere in between like this. We can also do it like this. So it starts from the beginning. So you see, we can also keep this empty and we can go ahead. Similar is the case for strings. Strings work the same exact way. Now let's go ahead and see some methods. So one of the methods that we didn't see in the slides was the length, which allows us to see how many characters or how many in fact items a list has. So for that we can simply do length, len, and my underscore list, and we save and hit enter. So it says that there are 11 items in the list. So there are 11 items in the list. Let's just add a couple more and see, save it, run it. There are 13 items in the list. So now let's go ahead and see some methods of the lists that we saw on the slide. So the first one that we're going to do is the append method. So how does it work? So it works like my list dot append, and here we put in the value. So here we put in, let's say, I'm just writing it as a placeholder. So for example, I want to add another value at the end. So I would say, let me just get rid of this. So what I would say first is my list dot append and brackets, and then I would do a value that I want to add. So we can also move this out of the list here like this, and let's say we want to add a new value called 9. We do this, and here we can simply print the list, and let's see. So you see 9 has now been added to the list. 5, 5 and 9. So you see we didn't have to do anything. Whenever we use this append method, it updates this existing list. Now this list, when reaches here, it appends. Now it has a new value added, 9 at the end. It modifies the original list. It does not create a copy. So that we have to keep in mind. The next method that we want to look at is the extend method, where we extend the second list. So I would say another list. So let's create another list. So let's say my list 2 is equals to, let's make this a multi-data type kind of list. 45.2, 32.1. Here, and let's put a number at the end, 3. So what we want to do is we want to add this list to this one. So what I want to do is I want to say my list, this one, dot append, dot extend. We change it here, dot extend, and here we write the second list, which is my list underscore 2. Now we can print the list. So let's see if I run the code. So you see it has now updated the list. Again, this method, this extend method, will update this list. It will not create a copy. It will just update this one. You see the order in how we did this. So we applied the extend method on this list. This is why it came first here, then the second one. If we were to reverse it, it would be the other way around. So if I do this, if I put my list 2 dot extend, so the first will be these values, and then these values will be extended to this one. So if I run it again, oops, I want to do my list underscore 2, because my list has not been changed. When I use the extend method, the second list, whatever the list within this is, this parenthesis is not changed. So I want to do this, and you see how these are in a different order according to this. And again, it is important to understand that lists are ordered collections, and they are always ordered, unlike some other data structures which we will see in the future lectures. So let's go ahead, get rid of this one, and see the next method, which is the insert method. So here what we do is we put in the index, and here we put in the value. So here, let's say I want to put in a new value in this list, but I want to put it at between 3 and 4. So what index would that be? That would be 0, 1, 2, and third index over here. So I want to set the third index. I want to put a new value which is 7, and then I want to print this list and see how it goes. So you see now I have this new value 7, and all of the others are shifted towards the right side. So it inserts this value on this index here, and inserts and basically makes it like this. Now it is here, and everything is shifted towards right. Okay, you can also add it at the 0 index like this. If I do it like this, you see it is now at the start. So this is how you can add a particular element to a particular position in a list. Now we can also do some remove functions. So in the remove, what do we have to do? We have to remove the value. So So let's go ahead and say my list dot remove, and let's say 4 and hit enter and see. So it says 1 2 3 4. So it removes this particular value 1 2 3 4, value 4, but it only removes the first occurrence. It does not remove this 4. If we do for 5, you see 1 2 3 4 6, it removes this 5 but not this one right at the end. So this means that it only removes the first occurrence of any particular value that we have written here. And the next one we want to see is the pop function, which also kind of works like the remove function, but it returns us a value. So let's say I want to pop 5 and popped value is equals to this, and let's also print popped value. So let's just also write it here, popped value like this, and let's see how it is. So if I run the code, so the pop value is 6. So this value 6 is for the index. It's not for the value, it is for the index. I forgot to update this here. So this is at the 5th index. So 0 1 2 3 4 5 at the 5th index, it will remove this particular value, and this value that is removed is stored in this variable. So now we can also use this value afterwards. Now if I were to do the same for the remove method, let's see what it says. So it says pop value is none. It just removes the value, which is 5. In this case, is the value itself the item. In case of pop, is the index of the item. And in this one, it says none for this because nothing has been returned by this. It just removes it and that's it. But if I do pop, it will remove the value at 5th index and store that value in this variable, and we can pretty much use the value after that because it is stored in this variable. And the next thing that we want to look at is the index, and here we want to say value. So let's just get rid of this one and this one, and now let's say my list dot index, and I want to see the index of, let's say 4. So let's say 4. Now again, this should return a value. If I do it like this, it will not change the, you see it doesn't change the list in itself because this method also returns a value. Whenever a method returns a value, we need to store the value. So let's say index item is equals to this, and to see the index, I need to print the index here. Let's print index, and here we can do this index item, and if I do this, so it says index is 3 for this value 4 0 1 2 3. So you see, this is how it can return the index. So these are just some basic functions. These are just some basic functions that lists have. Lists are very versatile. They're used a lot in programming, so it is better to practice these as much as you can, and yeah, keep on practicing. And that will be all for this lecture. We'll see you in the next one. Up till then, goodbye.